right, good morning. Welcome to the, I don't know if you can still hear the music, but I want to stop it on my side. Welcome to the September Virtual Learning Series for CTE Directors. I'm Sarah Williams, Senior Director of CTE for the Department of Education. Our topic this month is mainly going to be focused around risk-based monitoring. So Michael Gately will be joining us here shortly to share some information to help you prepare as we enter into the second year of results-based monitoring, where every district participates in the monitoring process at some level, whether that be level 1, 2, or 3. But before we bring Michael in, I just wanted to provide a few updates around our core indicators of performance from a state level that are reported back to the federal government as part of our consolidated annual report each year. Where we are is in a pretty good spot, but not 100% meeting the state determined levels of performance, and it kind of mirrors state level data, mirrors the district level data as we're all held to the same state determined level of performance. There's no variation from district to district on any of the indicators. But as we are kind of kicking off a new year, just want to kind of highlight for you some areas of focus that we have as a state, and then also kind of share some steps that we are taking at TDOE to help support increasing our performance in these particular indicators. So when we're thinking about the 8 indicators, these are the 1S1 being the 4-year graduation rate, 2S1, 2, and 3 being around academic attainment, 3S1 being around non-traditional, around follow-up about where our students are 6 months post-graduation, 4S1 being around non-traditional participation, 5S3, we do not use 5S1 or 5S2 as is defined by the federal legislation. So 5S3 is around work-based learning participation, and then 5S4 is around ready graduate. And so when we're looking at those 8 indicators, we're good in 6 of the 8. And so that is good. And when I say we're good as a whole. I do want to just kind of call out that from Perkins 4 to Perkins 5, subgroups became very important. And so when we're thinking about how we divvy up and are able to slice the data, that becomes extremely important in Perkins 5, because it's no longer if you're good as a whole, then you're good, period. You need to meet those state level the state determined performance levels for all student subgroups, whether that be gender, ethnicity, special populations, and also career clusters. And so we as a state are good. We are meeting those performance levels or within state harbor for 6 of our 8 indicators. The 2 where we did not meet the performance level for the program year 2021 was 2S2 and 2S3. Remember, those 2s are all around academic attainment. 2S2 is around math, and 2S3 is around science. And so I would encourage you, as you are working through professional development over the next year, as you're thinking through kind of how to prepare your students in classrooms within those academic skills, please reinforce with your educators how and where to make the appropriate connections to both math and science. We're, from the TDOE level, going to be working on some additional resources to kind of help pull out that content throughout all of our programs of study, kind of pulling out the career clusters where we didn't meet that as a whole, a little bit more to help prioritize. So we're not trying to do everything all at the same time. But kind of across the board in those 2 areas, those are 2 performance indicators that as a state for performance year or program year 2021, we did not meet the state determined levels of performance. Then when we talk about the different subgroups, so for the other performance levels, we maybe met them overall, but we have some student groups whenever we segment out the data that aren't meeting the majority of those 8 indicators. And so when I say the majority, I'm going to go with if they didn't meet 4 or more. I've kind of highlighted to them so that we can just be aware. So when we're thinking males and females, gender-based, that's a pretty even split. Males are did not meet 3, so they did meet 5 of the indicators as a whole. Females met 6 of the 8 indicators. When we get down into our racial and ethnic groups, as defined by ESSA, our Black and African American students and Hispanic and Latino students met 4 on average of the indicators. And so I think that's another student population group that we need to just be cognizant of over this next year. When we're looking at our special populations, and just the standard disclaimer here that special populations are, it's more than just students with disabilities. There are 8 different categories of students with students that fall into special populations. And of those groups, we have 5 that did not meet 4 or more of those indicators. And those student population groups are students with disabilities, students from economically disadvantaged families, single parents, English learners, and homeless students or homeless individuals. And so as we are kicking off this year and paying particular attention to the students who fall into any or multiple of those student groups, the student special populations groups, providing resources, providing kind of additional care through Perkins is definitely should be an area of focus. And then as far as career clusters go, and this is going to be kind of where TDOE kind of steps in a little bit to help strengthen these standards within these programs that are represented for the career clusters. Architecture and construction, human services, and transportation were our 3 career clusters that students participating in those career clusters did not meet the state determined levels of performance for at least 4 of the 8 indicators. And so wanted to kick us off at the beginning of the year with kind of that status of where we are. I know you're deep into data review that will help generate the next level of report that'll show us kind of the progress we've made over the past year. So I do want to recognize that this data is from the 2021 school year is what this data is reflective of. So this will come in handy and kind of hopefully tee off some conversations that Michael will be having here shortly around results-based monitoring. And with that, Michael, if you don't care to share your presentation, then we'll get you loaded. Just a couple of housekeeping pieces. We are on about a 20-second delay, so we will hear what you have to say about 20 seconds out of what we say, and that's fine. Just continue to drop your questions and answers into the question and answer piece. I will kind of manage that as we move through Michael's presentation, interrupting him, or as he pauses and asking for questions, I'm kind of calling those out for the group at large. Yeah, that's kind of, I feel like I had another housekeeping piece, but it has completely left me. So with that, I will say good morning. I'm going to go off screen and on mute, but we are here in the background supporting what Michael is saying. And Arlette, before I pull it over, I see your question has come in about will the state data be available for all of this? Yes, absolutely. We'll work on kind of how and where is the best way to share that out. But yes, we can absolutely make that available for all. So Michael, with that, I'm going to pass over to you. And I believe you are live now, sir. So off to you.
All right. All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I miss hearing your voices and seeing your faces, but I look forward to being with you in person in November and seeing you all again. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you all about results-based monitoring this morning. And diving into the different levels, your LEAs, your district should have received their monitoring notifications earlier this week. And then yesterday or the day before, you would have gotten emails about some important dates coming up. If you are still unaware of your monitoring level, I will talk through where to find that as we get into the presentation. All right, so I do want to mention that with monitoring, we've got our best for all, our tiers here, academic, student readiness, and educators. Monitoring really, impacts and touches all of the different points here. Through our processes, we help to hopefully increase the success of students through your practices and policies and procedures in your district. And we just wanted to point out that with monitoring, we support all areas of the department and their work. All right, so for today, we are going to look at what used to be called on-site monitoring, the former desktop, the artist formerly known as desktop, updates to Ssqi monitorings, and then the required documentation walkthrough. So really important update with Ssqi, and we'll cover that in a few moments. All right. So first of all, in the past, you probably remember that with monitoring for on-site desktop self-assessment, right? You were notified in those terms. You may have seen in the email or notification or in ePlan, your monitoring level was either level 3A, 3B, or level 2 or level 1. So we have updated the names based on kind of what was being done in those different tiers, or what used to be tiers, now they're levels, to kind of give some key updates to the instruments themselves, add some better practices in there to help you all out, and we'll get into that in just a second. But for level 3, it is going to be similar to how it was before. We're going to have 3A and 3B again. So if you are 3A, that means that you will be on-site, physical on-site. So the teams will be in your district, in your schools. If you are 3B, that means it will be virtual on-site. So that'll be similar to the way we did things last year and the year prior to that to some extent. So we will be virtual for 3B. On-site LEA level interviews will take place again in 3A in the schools at the LEA level, and any other folks that we decide that we need to speak with. We have identified approximately 14% of the LEAs across the state that showed significant risk according to the risk analysis. That's going to be about 14 schools physically where we'll be on site in the district, and then about 6 schools that will be virtual on site. Again, you should have received a notification of your monitoring level. If you did not receive that notification, please reach out to your director of schools. It should have gone to anybody that was listed as a monitoring director or as a federal grant director, and which includes CTE directors. You could also go to the Data and Information tab in your ePlan, your district ePlan. You should see that on the left-hand side when you log into ePlan. You click there, and then you will select the results-based monitoring instrument. Should be towards the bottom of the list that pops up. And then you should see risk analysis in that instrument. You can click there and look at the points that you received in your different sections, including Perkins. CTE, and then you can scroll all the way down and you can see the total number of points, and you can also see the level of monitoring and the reason for monitoring. There will also be a link to the results-based risk analysis guide on the bottom left of that screen. So if you click that, It'll show you all our business rules, the different categories, how an LEA can receive points there, and so on. All right, so again, like we did with last year, with Perkins, we decided that we were going to do teacher surveys rather than pulling teachers out of the classroom to speak to them either virtually or in person. We know there's a huge substitute shortage in a lot of areas right now, so we want to make sure that we interrupt teachers' days as little as possible. So we will be sending out a survey style form stack to allow them to give us their feedback in their own time, whether that's during their planning, before, after school, or what have you. Last year, I asked CTE directors to pass those links on to at least 3 of the teachers at each school that was participating. This year, I will be reaching out directly to the teachers based on the programs of study that you said you offered and the teacher lists. So I will reach out to them prior to our monitoring dates and send the survey to them. Please, if you are participating in level 3 monitoring, let your teachers know that I will be, or maybe reaching out to them. That way they, they don't think that I'm trying to steal their information or fishing for their social security number or anything like that. Based on these surveys, I will review these prior to the monitoring visits. We may request for an on-site interview with the teachers. I can see that would be very rare, but just, based on the responses, we may reserve that time to speak with teachers individually. Okay, so continuing with level 3 compliance monitoring, you should have also received an email within the last few days that let you know which schools were going to participate in monitoring, if it was 3A or 3B. So for these school level interviews, again, for 3A, they will be physically in person at the schools. For Perkins, as far as schools, we are choosing 20% of schools or 2 high schools, whichever is greater. We will also look at 1 non-public when that's applicable and 1 charter when that's applicable. So if you've got those schools in your districts, they're going to be reviewing at least 1 of the non-publics and 1 of the charters as a part of the overall monitoring. And so we will speak to them too, just to, if they have secondary level students there, to talk to them about what their experience with CTE is, if they've been notified of programs of study that are offered and that kind of thing. Again, we will be, in schools for 3A. So we're going to review the most common concerns with the folks at the school level. We're going to, have the teacher follow-up surveys or meetings if needed, interviews with school level CTE leadership. We'll talk with, school counselors. If you have any classroom aides, student aides, teacher aides that work with CTE, those types of things. Anybody that really has an impact or, touches CTE, we would want to speak with them. That way, that's not to just talk to as many people as possible. That's just to ensure that we get all of the facets of CTE within your district. We want to make sure that we hear everything there is and that nothing's left out, because, as something's left out, that's a chance that, that might question, if is this a finding of non-compliance, is this a correction needed, kind of thing. So we want to make sure we get all the information, make sure that, everybody's being supported the way they need to be supported, that kind of thing. And that way, as I said, we can mitigate those writings of findings. We will also be taking inventory at the school level. So we'll want to see the master inventory as well as the prior year's purchases, and we will be checking those. We'll be sampling those at about 25%. So we'll look at some larger ticket items, smaller ticket items, just kind of across the spectrum of what was purchased as far as equipment. And on that note, please make sure to go ahead and do some checks for inventory ahead of time. You'll want to check and make sure that everything's tagged with a CTE or federal tag. If your district also has its own tags, which it should, make sure those are on there. The location is updated on your inventory. If that's incorrect now, make sure that's updated. You'll want to make sure that the funding source is listed on there, as well as the cost of the item. And ensure that the serial numbers that you have recorded match up to the tag numbers. Sometimes we know that tags might fall off, or something gets mistagged, and one tag is maybe you got two of the same TV, or two of the same computers, and the tags and the serial numbers just get kind of mixed up. So just make sure that all aligns. This is for your benefit, to ensure that you have a quality procurement and inventory standard in your LEA, to make sure if something, as they say, grows legs and walks off, if it's lost or stolen, you've got all the information that you need to be able to file a police report and hopefully recover those items. All right, as I said, we've got 3A and 3B. The information's up here for you. The instrument for level 3 is going to open on September 2nd. You will have, that's tomorrow, you will have access to upload information, offer your short answers. That's the agree, disagree, NA, yes, and we'll go into those. Open response questions. And then your pre-work is going to be due 10 business days prior to your first date of monitoring. So as I said, 2 days ago, I believe you should have gotten an email, or your director of schools. If you did not receive it, please reach out to them. But you would have gotten an email stating your monitoring dates, the date that we will be speaking to you all for a pre-monitoring visit, as well as your deadline for your pre-work. Again, that's 10 business days prior. So an example would be, if your monitoring date begins October 4th, that would mean that you need to have everything submitted in ePlan by September 20th. And that means that needs to be at the status of LEA authorized representative approved by the end of the day on September 20th. And that ensures that we have time to review everything, write some follow-up questions. That way we can, again, mitigate or alleviate some of those findings of non-compliance. So if we're looking at something, we see there are gaps, we can formulate a question, ask that on-site or virtually, and then hopefully we won't have to write a finding for that. Maybe we can just do a recommendation, or say that you met requirements. Our visits will take place between October 1st and December 15th. With regards to all LEAs that are participating in level 3, except for one, and they've been notified that they will be participating in the spring. We will have backup dates available in case of weather, school closures. We know that things happen, so we will be communicating backup dates with all districts. Please ensure that you're available on those dates. I do know that sometimes, it's a very tight schedule going from October 1st to December 15th. We have a very limited team that can do those monitorings, which is another reason why we're doing some virtual. And so there are some dates that we just cannot avoid. I know that there are maybe 1 or 2 LEAs that might be monitored during the fall CTE director meeting. If that's the case, please reach out to me. We can discuss it. You also have the option of sending a designee to those meetings. I know that's not quite the same, but we can discuss it. So if you'll reach out to me, hopefully we can take care of that. The monitoring results review for level 3 will take place from October 14th to January 13th. That will be on Fridays. We will hold those on Fridays. You should have received a notification in the email that went out a few days ago, as well as the dates that were included. You also will have the times. Those times listed will be according to the local time zone, whatever your district's time zone is, whether it's Eastern or Central. All right, so old desktop monitoring process, there are a few updates here. Again, it's called level 2 compliance monitoring now. So we will have LEA level reviews and some interviews in different cases. So this is a new addition. At FPO, we talked over the fact that desktop, old desktop, now level 2. The purpose of that was to be a little less intensive and to hopefully allow a little more autonomy on your side to be able to upload things, between a certain, date and the due date, which in this case we'll go over here in a second, October 17th, and not have any, intensive interview process. What we found was we were writing a greater number of findings for this, so we decided to build in a virtual discussion time. So we have sent dates in those emails that went out a few days ago for holds about 3 or 4 hour blocks of time on a certain date if you are in level 2. That's so that if we are reviewing the information and we see something is not quite there, it's missing a little piece, there's a gap somewhere, we want to be able to talk through it with you instead of just writing a finding of non-compliance. If you're in compliance, we want to make sure that you are recognized for that. So we'll take that time, we'll reach out to you, and it may be that I say, hey, you can go ahead and let this time go on your calendar. It looks like we have everything we need. Or I may say, hey, we've got this 4 hour block. Let's meet at this time. I'll send you a Teams invite and we're going to discuss these specific sections. That way I can get that information from you. And again, hopefully write a met requirements. You get to see that green for that section. That's what we want to see. So for level 2, that's going to open October 17th. So October 17th, you will have access to that instrument if you are participating in level 2 monitoring. This is going to be due December 15th. Again, that will need to be at the LEA authorized representative approved status by December 15th. Our virtual discussion range is from January 10th to February 9th. That's that time that we're going to reserve to be able to speak with you all in case we need that. Those are going to be on, various days. It's not just a Friday. So throughout those weeks of January 10th to February 9th. The monitoring results review, or what some people call the exit interviews or monitoring results discussions, are going to take place from January 27th to February 24th. We will also have those on Fridays. We try to give you enough time in those, an hour and a half to 2 hours, to be able to go through all of the monitoring results and then discuss any questions that you might have, talk through action steps that are involved, pieces of documentation that we're wanting to see, and evidence of compliance, and then also deadlines. As a reminder, when we do our monitoring results discussions, if a deadline doesn't quite align with what maybe you have planned or with what you think you can do, we can talk about adjusting those deadlines slightly. Okay, so we've gone through level 3 and level 2. Are there any questions that we have regarding those parts of the monitoring instruments? Okay.
Sorry, Michael. There is just
okay.
one question in here. So no school level uploads or questions to answer an e-plan for level 2? ? Just LEA.
Correct. Yes, correct. Yeah, thank you for asking that question. So no school level components will be a part of the level 2. So that's also a new area. We have removed the school level. There was some confusion, a little back and forth with level 2 when it came to the school level because, we didn't have the interview portions, that kind of thing. So we decided to remove those. We felt like we were getting the information we needed at the LEA level. So you might see some questions that you, as the CT director at the LEA level, will answer that may specifically ask about policies or really like procedures at the school level, but there will be no expectations for school level folks or the school levels to participate. There will be no site level questions. So if you got a level 2 monitoring email, there would not have been any schools listed as participating on that. And that's why. All right, so self-assessment, what used to be called self-assessment is now level 1 compliance monitoring. It hasn't really been self-assessment in a long time. So the way it was done in ePlan, it really wasn't a self-assessment. So we decided to call it something different and to update this a little bit. Again, there's no school level at the self-assessment, former self-assessment, level 1 compliance monitoring, no school level involvement. There's no conversation component with this one. We have no uploads required with this. This instrument is going to open January 11th of 2023, and it's going to be due February 15th of 2023. And you might say, that's a very short amount of time. You know, how am I supposed to get that done? Once you look at the instrument, you will realize it'll take you very little time. So for Perkins, I have removed all of the open response questions. We did that last year. It seemed to work out really well. We have short answer questions in there, which are the agree, disagree questions. You might see some in there that also have the option of NA. So if you choose disagree and that drop down, just provide a justification. If it's agree or NA, you do not have to type anything into the box. I ask you and urge you to answer those as honestly as possible. That allows us to, you know, if something is a disagree and if it's a compliance concern, we can go ahead and get you the technical assistance and resources that you need to get that into compliance and to support those students in whatever way, or teachers in whatever way that we need to get them supported. So just make sure you accurately answer those questions. Again, agree, disagree, or NA. And there are no uploads required. So I say on average, it'll probably take you, if you're a more experienced CTE director in your district, I would think it would take you well under 2 hours to complete that, maybe an hour. And if you're a little newer and you need to read through the questions a few more times and kind of research a little bit, it may take you about 2 hours tops. So there are also no monitoring results discussions with the self-assessment, former self-assessment, level 1 compliance monitoring. So for level 1, if you have findings of non-compliance or corrections needed, we will not have a call where your entire LEA, you know, leadership team and the FBO team will discuss those. But what will happen is if I write a finding other than met requirements or exceeded expectations for a section, I will reach out to you via email and let you know that there are some results that you need to review and talk through those with you. And if you would like to set up a time to talk on Teams, I would love to do that with you, just so you have a good understanding of what's expected, maybe what was missing and that kind of thing. And that will be due, or we will have those reviewed approximately March 31st, and then you'll have those available. I do have to say that there are very few findings that normally come from the level 1 compliance monitoring. So I think out of greater than 90 LEAs last year, we maybe had 6 total findings for level 1.
Michael,
yes,
we have a couple of questions that may be better suited for as you finish level 1, now that I'm reading them, but there's some questions about like where to find things and whatnot. So whenever you're ready, let me know.
Yeah, go ahead. We can answer those.
Sure. Okay, so question here, is there any way to see the required uploaded documents for level 2 prior to October 17th so districts can start collecting everything?
You can't look at the instrument yet, but until October 17th when it opens. But we're going to go over some required evidence here. It'll mainly, it comes from level 3, but all of the required evidence we're asking for that I'll be discussing will also come from level 2 or be applicable to level 2. So those will align, and you can see the required evidence that we'll be looking for level 2 today.
Okay.
In this PowerPoint. Yeah.
Excellent. And then the next question is, where did you say they could find the level, what level they are in ePlan?
Yeah, so when you log into ePlan, as I said, you go to the left-hand side of your screen. You should see those blue links over there. You'll select the data and information link. You click on that, and it should bring up a screen that gives you a list of different instruments. And I believe at the bottom of that list, you should see results-based risk analysis. And you'll click on that. And then that brings up an instrument, and you should see several sections, and one of those is risk analysis. And if you click on that, it'll show you all of the points. And then in that risk analysis on the bottom right, will tell you what level your LEA is being monitored at, and it gives you the reason that it's being monitored at that level, the business rule. Yeah.
All right, I believe that is it for now.
Okay, and speaking of where to find things, I'll just walk you through the file path or the pathway to get to your monitoring instrument as well, whether that's level 3, A, B, level 2, or level 1. So again, when you log into ePlan or you're on that home screen, you should see on the left-hand side those different links. You can select monitoring or monitoring instruments. When that comes up, you make sure that FY23 is selected, 2023, and then select the appropriate monitoring instrument for your district, whichever you're participating in. And when those become available, so again, tomorrow for level 3, you'll be able to click on that and then open your instrument. One thing I do have to point out too, as I'm speaking about that, is one of the biggest questions I get is, hey, I've gotten into the instrument. I can't put anything in here. I can't answer any questions. Something's broken, something's wrong. So just like with the Perkins Basic, you have to change the status of the instrument before you can start participating. So there should be a draft started status at the top of the sections page, that main page, and you'll click draft started. Anybody that has access to the instrument should be able to click that status. There are other statuses that only particular people can click, but if you hover over that little link that says draft started, it gives you a list, or any of the statuses, it gives you a list of the folks in your LEA that would be able to make that change to the status. So draft start is really important when trying to submit all of your information. Once everything is submitted, it will have to be approved by each of the federal program supervisors, including you as a CTE director. So the IDEA director will have to approve the instrument, the CTE director, the ESSA director, ESSA point of contact, and the director of schools finally. So it will go through that workflow of everybody that's at the LEA level that is contributing to the instrument will have to make those assurances that what was entered was correct, and by clicking those statuses, and it will tell you each level, who the next person is, to make it a little easier for you. All right, so we're moving on to size, scope, and quality indicators. We've got some updates to the process for monitoring these this year. I'm really hoping that this makes you happy, and that it makes it a lot easier for us to monitor, as well as for you to upload and to meet compliance for these different portfolios that we look at. So first of all, we will have a new separate monitoring instrument for the submission of the Ssqi portfolios. Now, I know that may seem like, we've got another instrument, really, but in this case, I think it's going to really help out. So for the monitoring instrument for Ssqis, these will be due along with the pre-work, as your level 2s and level 3 deadlines are. So those 10 business days prior to your first date of monitoring for level 3, these will be due, the Ssqi portfolios. This allows for us to make timely reviews, give feedback, and get that process started. We want to be able to do this again in that rolling manner as you're having your monitoring dates come up. This allows for us to give you that feedback, and hopefully you can make meaningful impacts on the current year portfolios. So I do want to point out again, this everything that's programmatic that's monitored is going to be from the prior school year. That's what we're asking for evidence of. Since we do it so early in the school year, we know if we ask for current year, there might be a lot of things that you just haven't completed yet. So we asked for the previous school year. So we'll be looking at everything from the 2021-22 school year. As a reminder, if there's something that we ask for, this is even applicable to Ssqis, is if there's a piece of evidence that would meet a requirement for Ssqis, or a piece of evidence that we've asked for in the instrument that you don't have for last year but you have it for this year, please include that. If you have brought yourself into compliance, we want to make sure we give you credit for that. We don't want to write a finding of non-compliance for anything in Ssqis, or give you a result for Ssqis, or any other documentation as a part of monitoring if you've already recognized it was out of compliance and brought yourself into compliance. You will no longer be required to upload access to every single program of study portfolio that you have at the participating schools. So we are going to, and I will show you screenshots from the instrument here in a few minutes to give you a better understanding of what this looks like. But the programs of study portfolios, we will identify the particular ones we want to look at. So you will be able to see that and include links to those particular ones, or if you want to give us a link to where you have all of your programs of study portfolios, and we just look at those particular ones that we submitted as the ones we want to review, that's fine too. If that makes it easier on you, not having to move things to different folders and that kind of stuff, then I totally understand that. We will complete a checklist in the instrument to identify programs of study that have been in place less than 3 years, or excuse me, LEA staff will complete that. And again, I'll show you that here in a second and explain that a little better. The LEA staff will also indicate programs of study that are taught by post-secondary CTE educators. So this is a screenshot from the page that we've got right now. So you see there's the career cluster is on the far left. So we've got every career cluster that's offered in Tennessee. Then the second column there where it says program of study, we'll have every single program of study that is applicable to Tennessee is going to be down that list there. And then the school offers this program of study. We are either going to have this pre-populated, we're still trying to see if we can do this, pre-populated with what you chose in eTiger last year as being a program of study you offered, or we may need you as the CTE director to review the programs of study you offered in that school year, and then click the boxes. So if you offered industrial maintenance technology and mechatronics, you would click those boxes, and that would tell us as we're looking at this instrument that those are some that you offered. Again, we've got that access in ePlan, or excuse me, eTiger, but just through the capabilities of this instrument ePlan, we may need you to select those. The selected for review column where it says false there that you can see, if we select that as one of the programs of study we want to review, that will say true. And so that means that's one of the portfolios you need to make sure that we have access to. Now, the next two columns are also going to be check boxes that you will complete as the CTE director. So one says new program of study less than 3 years. So if you have a program of study that was in the 2021-22 school year was less than 3 years old, you will select that box, and that ensures that we don't count that towards any kind of compliance, but we may still review those just to give some feedback and to allow the growth of that program of study, and make sure that those that are contributing to the programs of study portfolio for that particular program of study understand how they can complete those Ssqis, make them better, enhance them, and all of that. The following, it says TCAT instructor, not a direct employee of the LEA. That will be changed to say post-secondary instructor, not a direct employee of the LEA. So that gives you a chance to tell us if you have one of these that's listed as a post-secondary program of study and not expected to have a portfolio. And that way we're not, there was a lot of going back and forth last year with some programs of study that were selected to find out that, that program of study actually that's taught by a TCAT instructor. So, they don't have a program of study, or excuse me, a portfolio. So, then we would have to choose another program of study to review. We do sample 25% of the portfolio, so it's important that we make sure that we hit that mark. Now, I imagine there might be questions about this page. Are there any questions here?
So we have one question in here, and I'll just take this opportunity to say we are recording today's session. It will be posted in the Teams channel for CTE directors and core consultants just shortly after we conclude here. So if you feel like you're drinking from a water hose, take a deep breath. It will be okay. You can come back and rewatch. But we have a question here from a core consultant that says, recently advised directors to only select the programs of study that are offered by the teachers at their school to better align with FPO. Again, it's from a core consultant. It makes them wonder if the director should select all the programs of study that they offer. I'll go ahead and answer that question. Yes, you should. And when we're doing open enrollment, which will open on September 15th for the current school year, you should identify all programs of study being offered at the LEA. What we'll do each year before monitoring is kind of come back to you and say which of these programs of study that were offered in the LEA at these specific school sites, which ones are less than 3 years old, and which ones are exclusively administered through post-secondary instructors. And so when you're doing open enrollment, again, that will open September 15th for the 22-23 school year, report in that open enrollment every program of study offered at any school within your LEA. This time next year, and we'll be doing this year, based upon what you reported last year, we will be asking you which ones are what's up here on the screen, which ones have been offered less than 3 years, so they're considered a new program of study, and which ones are exclusively administered through post-secondary staff, whether that be TCAT, community college, higher ed, any combination thereof. And again, the reason for that is SSQIs are not, you don't have an SSQI portfolio if it's executed completely by a post-secondary partner. So we don't want to go through the process of saying we're going to monitor that program of study, and then we're halfway through monitoring and it's like, oh no, that's not really taught by any LEA staff. So when you're reporting, I'll say it again here one more time. When you're reporting your program of study open enrollment, report all programs of study, every last one of them that is offered at one of your school locations. When it comes to monitoring, we'll narrow down, we'll take that comprehensive list, that full listing, and pull out programs of study that are less than 3 years old at that school and programs that are taught exclusively by post-secondary partners. And we've had a couple of questions come in here. Let me just make sure.
Okay. And let me go ahead and state too, real quick, that I know this says LEA at the top of the screen, but this will be for, it will be only at the school level, this page you'll see. So when you select a school from the drop down, there'll be one of these sections on each one of the schools. So you'll be able to select only the programs of study that are offered at that particular school, if that makes sense. Because we decided to do that since we are looking at them by school rather than at the LEA level.
Gotcha.
So just wanted to point that out. Yeah. So if you have 2 or 3 schools, you may be completing this, 3 different times, or somebody at the school may be doing that.
All right, we do have a couple of questions here related to, so 2 questions for risk analysis. And I'm gonna pause in between each one and type in the answer, and then I'll ask the second one. So the first question is, does the state put the LEA score in E-Plan?
The LEA score. Are we talking about the overall total of all points from the risk analysis?
From the risk analysis, it says 2 questions for risk analysis. Does the state put the LEA score in E-Plan?
Yeah, so your score is in that risk analysis that we talked about in the data and information. Your score will be there. It's not made public, if that's the question, for anybody else to review. So it's only people that would have access to that data and information page that would be able to see your score. But you can see, like I said, you can see the breakdown of the Perkins score and the total points there, as well as all the other sections such as IDEA, ESSER, ESSA, and you can see the total points for the entire LEA there as well. You won't be able to see another LEA's points if that's also the question.
Okay. And then the second question for this post is, if there's an error, how do they go about getting that changed?
Yeah, so there was a deadline, I think of August 23rd, to complete the risk analysis process. The guide there that I mentioned is at the bottom left of that risk analysis guide page. The link to that walks through on page 5. There's an appeals process. So in that same instrument where you see risk analysis, there's another section right below that you see, it says acknowledgement. You would click on that, and there's a drop-down box that you would select either, I think, acknowledge, appeal, and those might be the only options, but you would select one of those, and if it was appeal, you would give justification as to why you were appealing that, and then we would adjust points based on whether that was approved or not. I did that for several folks who we adjusted some points based on CTE director attendance and a few other categories where we realized our data was a little off for those folks.
Okay. And then let's see here. Question around if a portfolio is not required for post-secondary instructor, can we spend Perkins on that POS? No, you cannot. In order to spend Perkins on a program of study, it has to be a high quality program of study, which means it has to meet the Ssqi portfolios. Then from a new director here, where's the open enrollment completed? Any Tiger? Yes, that open enrollment will open September 15th within eTiger. Instructions will be coming out in the CTE Educator newsletter.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That zeroes out our questions. And just as a time check, we've got about 7 minutes left.
Okay. All right. So this is going to open Ssqi monitoring updates the instrument's going to open around September 17th. Again, it's going to be due with the pre-work deadline that you have for all of the other pieces. You'll be able to find this in the same way under the monitoring instruments for FY23. You'll see the size, scope, and quality indicators review, I think is what it's called. It will be very apparent, the instrument is for Ssqi's. For level 3, the 2 programs of study identified as in the local application as being high quality will be reviewed. In addition to that, we will review additional programs of study at each school selected to meet that 25% sampling goal. For level 2, only the 2 programs of study identified in the local application as being high quality will be reviewed as a part of the level 2 monitoring. So only 2 programs of study. I know I looked at some programs of study that were selected for some LEAs recently that I guess didn't end up getting offered in the LEA. So just make sure that those programs of study that you said were your high quality ones or ones that you offered, and those are the program of study portfolios we'll be looking at. So in order to reduce the number of findings that we were writing for Ssqis, because we wrote a lot of findings, a lot of action steps, which also impact your future risk analysis. So you get points for each action step that you have as a result of a prior monitoring in the previous year. So we wanted to mitigate some risk there, or some writing of findings of non-compliance. So in this process, I will show you, we're doing a revision process rather than a results writing process. So you will receive feedback directly in the instrument. So this is the Ssqi checklist page. You will be able to see this. So each program of study is going to have a list of the 5 indicators there. As we review these, let's say I'm looking at the first program of study, and it's, maintenance and light repair, and I'm looking at indicator 1, and there's evidence missing of active advisory councils. There will be a checkbox that will be there in the completed instrument here in the day or next day or so, that I would check a box, and then that would give me a little text box, and I would type in the reason why I'm giving feedback here, and then go through, and I would also select in this little drop down box that says not reviewed, I would select needs revision. Once those are complete, you as the CTE director would get automated emails from ePlan saying that there is revision needed in the Ssqi portfolio instrument, and you would be able to go in and see, all right, so Michael says that there is a lack of active advisory council evidence for indicator 1 for this portfolio. I'm going to go in, or I'm going to have the teacher fix that, and once that's fixed, we'll be able to review that and then hopefully select reviewed or okay, whatever the options are. And again, this will keep us from writing findings of non-compliance for this, and also hopefully help to impact the portfolios in the current year as we're going along, rather than having you all do different action steps to meet these, and looking at the current year portfolios at the end of the year. So we just want to give that time for improvement in the current year. Okay, so for required documentation for the Ssqi instrument, again, this will all be with the drop downs at the school level. So you will have to give us links to the school level digital Ssqi portfolios there, for each school that's selected. Any applicable Ssqi PD that you offer teachers, and we ask for this that way if we're seeing a lot of areas where they're still not 100% compliant, maybe we can help you with some resources, how to talk with your teachers about these things, and that sort of thing. And then the school CTE teacher list and content area, so to make sure that we know, because sometimes we do run into portfolios where a teacher might have they labeled it as their name instead of the program of study, and that'll help us to narrow down which folder does this actually go to, which program of study. Okay. We do only have a couple of minutes, so I do want to walk through these required documentation pieces. It will be a little quickly, but these are some things I've talked about in the past. So for LEA info, orgs, and initiatives, the evidence of ongoing stakeholder feedback is very important. Make sure that you include evidence that you attempted to consult with all required stakeholder groups or representatives of all required stakeholder groups. We see a lot of evidence where it might only show industry partners and that kind of stuff. So make sure that everybody that's on that list, including parents and students, representatives of students and special populations and that kind of thing, that show that you have attempted and hopefully gotten feedback from them for the CLNA, that ongoing process. Consult a stakeholder list. So we would like to see a list and kind of the roles of each stakeholder. So if they're a parent, or a parent and a industry partner, or, this is my student list, that kind of thing. We'd like to see that, please. And then active and utilize CTE post-secondary agreements or articulation agreements. So if you have those, they're ongoing. Maybe let's say it was formulated a couple of years ago. Make sure it's very important that it says, or apparent that it says ongoing, and that make sure that it is signed as well, and that you don't upload a blank copy. For effective educators, make sure you're uploading your license and endorsements. That's not something to take lightly, because sometimes we've actually helped some CT directors realize that their license might be coming due. They need to update that. Get them in touch with some folks that can help them in the licensing department as far as what needs to be uploaded into T-Encompass and that kind of stuff. We want to see the LEA plan that includes CTE PD. This is really important too. As your district creates a PD plan for the year, make sure you have input with what's being offered with CTE, and look and see how that ties into the overall PD plan for the district, for the LEA, and the goals and priorities that you all have. Make sure that ties in, but make sure that's available there. And then evidence of additional CTE PD opportunities. So what are you offering? There's some examples there: case training, CTE Summer Institute, industry certifications, and that kind of thing. And then really important, your PD evaluation method. So evidence showing if that's surveys or what have you, and we want to see completed surveys and not blank surveys, please. Students with disabilities, evidence showing that CT educators receive training on how to support those students is really important. This should be required annually for all teachers. So reach out to your IDEA, your spec coordinators. They should be able to give you that information, those sign-in sheets, all of the information that was used, PowerPoints, resources, that kind of thing. And then if you offer any additional training for CTE teachers on how to serve students with disabilities, we know that we have a lot of folks that come directly from industry and may not have a lot of experience with IEPs and kind of knowing, what's the difference between accommodating and modifying and that kind of thing. So just make sure that we're supporting our teachers there in that area and that they have a good understanding of that. And then a sample of career guidance and counseling for CTE students with disabilities. So that's really important too. We want to see those, whether that's questionnaires that they filled out, or things that your school counselors have available. We want to see those types of things uploaded in regards to students with disabilities. For those non-SWD subgroups, the procedures or process for identifying those students in each of those special populations groups. As Sarah talked about with the core indicators, it's really important that we're collecting this data and we're collecting it accurately. So how do you identify those students? And then what's your data process for that? And make sure that that's for each subgroup. Evidence of the LEA collaboration with schools regarding CTE engagement of families with English learners in a manner they understand. That could be translated materials that you have, resources, and that kind of thing, emails. And then evidence of training of CTE teachers for that support EL students, if that's applicable to your LEA. And for the last section here, the non-publics and charters, if those are not applicable to your district, those should be turned off. There should be an NA box that's checked to turn that off. If it's not, please reach out to me and I will make sure that section is turned off for you. All right. So are there any questions remaining in the chat? I'm sorry that last part was a little rushed, but I wanted to be respectful of your time. I know we're a few minutes over right now.
There are no questions in the queue. I think at this point, I'll post your email address, Michael, for anybody who may have remaining questions.
Yeah, and that's on the slide as well. And my work phone is also there. It's 931-349-7097. I am at a conference for the rest of today in person that I've been presenting at. I've got some more presentations this afternoon, but if you want to reach out to me via text or call, I will try to answer those as I'm available. And you just throughout the week in general, if folks want to give me a call, I'm more than happy to speak about monitoring Perkins with them.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for your time this morning, Michael. And just as a reminder to attendees, this recording, once it kind of gets edited and whatnot, will upload as an MP4 file probably within the next couple of hours, along with the survey link, which I will post here in the chat as well as a copy of the presentation here from Michael. Will all of those resources will be uploaded in the Teams channel that is between core consultants and CTE directors. So let me post this survey link in our Q&A section. And with that, I hope you have a great September. Look forward to seeing you next month as we kind of talk through some special populations, things in particular. Hope you have a great day.